8 Part 2. So if you don't remember Code 8, it came out about 5 years ago. And essentially the thing it was most famous for is that it stars the Amell cousins. Stephen Amell, Robbie Amell, not brothers. They are cousins, but they kind of behave like they could be brothers. They seem like they're pretty close as a family. And they put out this movie together called Code 8 that's essentially combining together an X-Men sort of mythology where a percentage of the population have powers and they are persecuted for it, with a fairly straightforward plot line about underground crime where the guy with the good heart gets pulled into the world of crime for a noble cause and then gets in over his head as in his morals start to decline. So we've seen X-Men before, we've seen this movie before, but it's kind of fun to merge them together. And it does actually do some pretty good world building of the way that it has these details about how it like this is designed to not really be sci-fi, but it's alternate timeline where our society was built by people with powers, and then automation came in and robots came in, drones came in to basically as a way to control the people with powers. And like there's like all these interesting details to it, but a fairly common story that we've seen before. So the sort of movie that when you watch it on Netflix, and if you're into that kind of thing and you like the Amell cousins, you go, oh, I like that. That was pretty cool. That's what it's like. And ever since it came out, it did really well when it dropped on Netflix. So they said they wanted to do a second part. Finally comes out. And point of reference, big fan of the Amell cousins. If you followed my channel really at all, you know that I thoroughly enjoyed Arrow. And then after Arrow, we did a show called Heels, which my wife and I loved. And then it got canceled last year because they couldn't promote it at all and had trouble. It was delayed when it was released and then dropped in the middle of the strike, which got Amell in a bunch of trouble because he's desperately trying to get his show not to be canceled in the middle of a strike where he can't promote his show, and made some comments that a segment of the internet are like, you have betrayed actors. And this, he had betrayed the strike, but he was also defending all the actors on the show that did lose their jobs, as well as him. But anyway, so movie comes out. Big fan of the Amell cousins. Got my picture with them actually last fall. And then at MegaCon, I guess some family members of his, I didn't know the exact connection because I talked to a lot of people, but they came through my line to meet and greet, met them, talked to them, and they said that they knew. And I was like, that's incredible. Yeah, he flew us in. That's awesome. And then they came back a few minutes later and they gave me a signed picture that they get like for free. That they just walked up, hey, can you sign this? Guy that really loves your stuff. I'm a big fan of his channel. And which was awesome. It's like, of things where someone did something that just felt so sweet and kind and like paying attention, something that they knew that I valued, and they went, here you go. It's like, wow, that is cool. Little backstory. I'm in a rambly mood today. But, so Code 8 Part 2, follow up to the first film, and it essentially, picks up years later, but it picks up right where the first film left off. So you can't just skip to Part 2. You have to watch Part 1 to follow the story. And I would say that Part 2 is a little bit better. It had all the stuff that I liked about the first film and about the kind of world building, the mythology, but I felt like it integrated the superpowered X-Men stuff and the crime side of things in a way that was more organic, and it didn't feel nearly as much like hey, we'll do a very generic film, but we'll make it interesting because the people have powers. The first one was a little bit of that. Like you could feel them mashing powers into this genre, where the second one is able to just iron out the kinks a little bit, and it just feels like its own thing better. I like both of the films quite a bit. I think they're very enjoyable. And so if you like kind of X-Men power stuff, if you like kind of street level heist crime stories, and the people with conflicting motivations and corrupt cops and bad guys, but maybe with a good side to them. If you like those types of stories, if you like the Amell brothers, cousins, I even called them brothers in there. If you like the Amell cousins, then it's absolutely worth checking these movies out. They're not going to be in my top 10 at the end of the year, but like a solid film like this, that when I would think of Netflix movies, this would be one of the better Netflix movies. And it drops on Netflix this week.